The twin suns were slowly setting behind the mountains when Captain Rourke and Sergeant Vale arrived at the small desert outpost. Dust followed every step they took. Their heavy armor was scratched from old wars, and their long coats moved with the warm wind. They were both tired from traveling, but the urgent call they received kept them alert. Something was wrong here. Something serious. As the two veterans walked closer, they saw a woman sitting on the metal platform outside the outpost door. She held a small child in her arms. At first, Rourke thought the girl was sleeping, but as they got closer, he saw the truth. The girl was hurt, very hurt. Her leg was swollen, the skin bruised and bloody. Strange, glowing tattoos covered her arms and neck. They flickered weakly, like a dying light. Rourke knew immediately what she was. A hybrid. Half human, half alien. Only 9 years old. The woman holding her looked up when the veterans approached. Her eyes were red from crying. "Thank you for coming. I didn't know who else to call." Rourke kneeled beside them. "Tell me what happened." Mara swallowed hard. "My name is Mara. This is Lyra. She was attacked. Last night." Vale's jaw tightened. "Attacked by who?" Mara shook her head slowly. "I don't know. I woke up to screaming. When I ran outside, 3 figures were dragging her. They beat her. They said she didn't belong here. They said she should not exist." Lyra whimpered quietly in Mara's arms. Rourke saw the fear in her small face. Her eyes were bright silver, rare, beautiful, and full of pain. Rourke spoke softly. "Lyra, can you hear me?" She nodded slowly. "Did you see who hurt you?" Lyra hesitated. "They had masks, but their voices, they were human." Vale and Rourke looked at each other. Humans hurting a child? And not just any child, a hybrid child, protected by the United Colonies. That meant one thing. Someone wanted to send a message. Rourke touched the edge of the girl's glowing tattoo. The light flickered again. Her marks are fading. That should not happen. Hybrids don't lose their glow unless— Mara finished his sentence quietly. "Unless they are dying." The desert wind grew colder. Rourke stood up. "We need to move her inside. We need to check the area too." Mara carried Lyra inside the outpost, where 2 small holographic lanterns lit the room with a soft blue light. Rourke examined the wounds more carefully. They were not random. The cuts were sharp and exact, like someone used a special blade. Vale entered with dust on his coat. "Rourke, you need to see this." Outside, Vale pointed at the ground. "I found this." He handed Rourke a strange metal shard. It had symbols carved on it, symbols neither of them recognized. Rourke ran his thumb over it. The shard vibrated faintly, like it was alive. "This is alien tech, not local, not simple." Suddenly, the shard gave a small pulse of light. Vale stepped back. What was that? Rourke stared at it with a hard expression. "It is transmitting something, a signal, or coordinates." Mara gasped. "You mean the attackers left it on purpose?" Rourke nodded. "This wasn't a random attack. This was planned." Inside, Lyra cried out again. Her tattoos dimmed even more. Mara rushed to her side. "Her glow, it's getting weaker." Rourke moved closer and checked her pulse. It was dropping fast. "We don't have long. Something inside her is destabilizing, something they did to her." Lyra opened her eyes weakly. "Captain, they said they will come back. They said they will take me away." Rourke felt something heavy in his chest. anger, protectiveness, and a deep sense of duty. No child deserved this, not in his galaxy, not under his watch. He stood straight up and looked at Vale. "Get ready. We are not letting anyone touch her again." Vale cracked his knuckles. They picked the wrong veterans to mess with. Outside, the wind picked up again. The twin suns dropped lower, turning the desert blood red. Something evil was coming, and the veterans knew this was only the beginning. Night fell quickly on the desert. The twin suns were gone, leaving only the cold wind and a dark sky full of stars. Inside the small outpost, Lyra lay on the medical bed, breathing slowly, her glowing tattoos fading more each minute. Mara stayed close to her, holding her hand, whispering soft words. Captain Rourke stood near the window, staring at the silent desert outside. Something bothered him, something big. The attackers had left a metal shard behind, a device transmitting unknown coordinates. No criminal or raider would leave something like that by accident. Sergeant Vale walked in, his boots still covered with desert dust. "The perimeter is clear, no movement, no footprints except ours." Rourke nodded, but didn't look calm. "They'll come back," he said quietly. "Then why leave the girl alive? Why break her leg and run?" Rourke finally turned. "Because they wanted fear, and they wanted us to follow their trail." Mara overheard the conversation. "Please, don't go after them tonight. Lyra needs you here. I can't keep her stable alone." Rourke stepped closer to the bed. He watched the girl's little chest rise and fall. Each breath was weaker than the last. "She is strong," he said, "but something inside her is changing, something they did to her." Lyra opened her eyes weakly. "Captain, it hurts." Rourke kneeled beside her. "I know, little one, but you're safe here. We'll fix this, I promise." Lyra blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. "They said more children like me are missing." The words hit the room like a shockwave. Rourke froze. "What do you mean, more?" Lyra swallowed. "I heard them talk. They said I was the last one they needed." Mara gasped. "Last one? Of what?" Lyra whispered. "Of the experiments." Vale looked at Rourke with a worried expression. "This is not a simple hate crime. This is bigger." Rourke nodded slowly. "Much bigger." An hour passed. Rourke connected the metal shard to a secure scanner. Strange symbols danced across the screen. They didn't belong to any human faction. Vale leaned over his shoulder. "Can you translate that?" "No," Rourke said. "But someone can." "Who?" Rourke stared at the screen. "An old contact, a scientist named Dr. Hallen. He studies illegal alien tech. He lives 2 valleys away." Mara panicked. "You can't leave. What about Lyra?" Rourke's voice softened. "I don't want to leave her, but if we don't understand this shard, she won't survive the night." The room fell silent. Lyra spoke again, her voice barely audible. "Captain, go." Rourke turned to her quickly. "Lyra, you need to rest." She shook her head weakly. "Go, find who hurt me. If you know, you can help others too." Rourke felt something heavy in his chest, anger, protectiveness, and a deep sense of duty. No child deserved this, not in his galaxy, not under his watch. He stood straight up and looked at Vale. "All right, I'll go, but Vale stays here with you and Mara. He won't leave your side." Vale saluted. "No one gets through me, not tonight, not ever."
Rourke grabbed his rifle and stepped outside into the cold night. The desert stretched endlessly, lit only by the faint glow of the moons. As he walked towards his transport bike, he stopped. There were footprints. Fresh ones. Not human. Something with 3 sharp toes had been walking around the outpost, watching them. Rourke's blood ran cold. He followed the tracks with his flashlight. They circled the outpost, then suddenly vanished, as if the creature disappeared into thin air. He returned to the outpost entrance, muscles tense. Inside, Lyra suddenly jerked upright, eyes wide. Mara grabbed her. "Lyra, what is it?" The girl pointed at the window, her voice trembling. "They're here."
The desert was silent for a moment. Too silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Captain Rourke held the glowing shard tightly as the deep vibration echoed again across the sand. He had heard many sounds in his years as a veteran, but this one was different. It felt alive, like something ancient calling out. Sergeant Vale moved to the window, weapon raised. "Movement," he whispered. "Far side of the dunes." Mara pulled Lyric closer, trying to shield her with her own body. The child was shaking, her glowing tattoos flickering fast like a dying light bulb. Rourke could see fear in her silver eyes. "Stay calm," he said softly. "They won't touch you, not while we're here." But even he wasn't sure. Outside, footsteps crushed the sand, slow, heavy, deliberate. Not human steps, something taller, something stronger. The outpost lights flickered again. Vale muttered, "They're playing with the power. They know we're inside." Rourke nodded. "They want us scared." Another deep vibration rolled across the land, closer this time. The shard in his hand pulsed in the same rhythm, like it was answering the call. Lyra whispered, "Their leader. He used this shard before. He talks through the shard. He speaks in lights." Rourke froze. "He speaks through the shard?" Lyra nodded weakly. "When they took me, he said I was a mistake that must be erased. He said humans should never mix with their kind." Mara gasped. "Who are they?" Before Lyra could answer, a sudden flash lit up the window. A tall shadow passed across the glass. Vale moved instantly. "Get down!" A sharp beam of blue light sliced through the room where his head had been seconds earlier. Dust and sparks filled the air. Lyra screamed. Mara held her tight. Rourke shouted, "They're trying to cut through the wall." The blue beam moved slowly, carving an opening with terrifying precision. Whatever was outside wasn't hiding its presence anymore. Vale switched his rifle to a high power setting. "I have one shot if they break through." Rourke steadied his breath. "Make it count." The wall cracked and burst open as the blue beam finished its arc. A massive figure stepped through the smoke. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, wearing dark armor with sharp edges. Its mask had 3 glowing slits instead of eyes. It moved with confidence and cold purpose. It wasn't human. The creature tilted its head as if studying them. Then it spoke, not with a voice, but through the shard. The metal device vibrated violently, projecting symbols and lights that formed words in Rourke's mind. "Return the child." The message rang inside every head in the room. Lyra trembled. That's him, their leader." Rourke stood in front of her, blocking the creature's view. "She stays with us." The creature stepped forward. The ground shook under its weight. Vale fired. The rifle blast hit the creature's chest, but instead of falling, it only staggered slightly. Its armor glowed, absorbing some of the energy. It turned its head and stared coldly at Vale. Rourke grabbed a flash grenade and activated it. "Cover your eyes." The grenade exploded with blinding white light. The creature roared and fell back a step, its mask sparking. Rourke didn't wait. He grabbed Lyra in his arms. "Mara, Vale, move!" They ran through the back exit of the outpost as the creatures recovered. Blue beams shot through the walls behind them. Distant roars echoed across the desert. More of them coming. Vale shouted, "There's at least 5, maybe more." Rourke didn't look back. He focused on Lyra, who clung to him tightly, struggling to breathe. Her tattoos flickered again, dimmer than ever before. "Stay with me," Rourke whispered. "Don't give up." They reached the transport bikes. Rourke placed Lyra on one of them and turned to Mara and Vale. "We split up. They want her. I'll draw them away." Mara grabbed his arm. "You'll be killed!" Rourke shook his head. "Better me than her." Lyra reached out with a weak hand. "Captain, don't go." Rourke placed his hand on her cheek. "I always come back." Behind them, the creatures roared and charged through the dunes. Rourke started the engine. "Vale, get Mara and Lyra to safety. Follow the signal to Dr. Hallen." Vale hesitated. "Rourke! Go!" The creatures closed in. Rourke sped away in the opposite direction, kicking up a huge cloud of sand. The blue beams followed him. He didn't look back, but he knew one thing. Tonight, humanity wasn't running from monsters. Tonight, a human veteran was hunting them. Rourke rode fast into the darkness, the transport bike shaking under the rough desert ground. Blue beams of light shot past him, hitting the sand and exploding into bright flashes. The creatures were fast, much faster than he expected. Their heavy footsteps echoed behind him, but he didn't slow down. Every second he stayed alive meant Vale had more time to get Lyra away. The night air was cold, cutting across his face like a blade. His armor was heavy, but his mind was sharp. He'd calculated every turn, every dune, every rock. He wanted the creatures to follow him far away from the child, and they did. Their roars grew louder. They were angry. They wanted her back. Rourke only drove faster. Far behind him, Vale helped Mara onto the second bike and held Lyra on his lap. The girl was barely awake now. Her small body trembled, her glowing tattoos dim like dying fireflies. Mara kept whispering, "Stay with us, Lyra. Stay with us." Vale pushed the bike to its limits, speeding over uneven ground. He checked the tracker. The signal was leading them towards Dr. Hallen's valley. But Lyra suddenly grabbed Vale's armor weakly. They see him." Vale looked down. "Who sees who?" "The captain," she whispered. "They are surrounding him." Vale's heart froze. He looked back at the dark dunes behind them. Far away he saw flashes of blue light. One blast hit the sky and lit the clouds. They were targeting Rourke, not just following. They were trying to kill him. Meanwhile, Rourke skidded the bike sideways and jumped off. The bike kept rolling before it flipped and crashed into the sand. The creatures appeared on the dunes like dark shadows. 5 of them, all tall, armored, and glowing with blue energy. Their leader stepped forward, the same creature from the outpost, its mask cracked from the flash grenade. The creature spoke again through the shard in Rourke's pocket. "Return the child." Rourke pulled out his rifle and aimed. "She belongs to nobody." The leader lifted his arm. Blue energy formed in his palm. The ground shook. Sand rose from the shockwaves. Rourke ran behind a rock formation just as the beam exploded where he had been standing. Stone shattered around him. He rolled out and fired a burst. The shots hit the creature's shoulder, making it stumble. The other creatures roared and charged. Rourke fired again and hitting 2 of them, but their armor absorbed most of the damage. He grabbed a shock mine and threw it. It exploded under one creature's feet, knocking it down. Rourke sprinted towards the dunes. He knew he couldn't win, not like this, but he could survive long enough to slow them down. The creatures chased him over the dunes. One jumped and landed so close the sand shook beneath Rourke's boots. The creature swung its arm, almost hitting him. Rourke ducked and rolled, pulling out his short blade. He stabbed upward, hitting the creature under the arm joint, its weak spot. The creature roared and fell back. Another fired a blue beam. It struck Rourke's side, burning through the armor. He screamed and stumbled, but kept running. He knew pain. Pain kept veterans alive. He slid down a dune and hid behind a metal wreck half buried in sand. He reloaded his weapon with shaking hands. His side hurt, but he forced himself to breathe slowly. He heard the creatures searching above him. Their footsteps were heavy, their voices like metal scraping inside a machine. One jumped down. Its shadow covered him. Rourke waited until it leaned closer, too close, and then fired point blank at its mask. The creature fell backward, sparks flying from its face. Rourke tried to run again, but the leader appeared in front of him like a giant wall. The leader grabbed him by the neck and lifted him off the sand. Rourke struggled, choking. The creature raised his other hand, blue energy building. You can fight for the hybrid, but she is dying. You cannot save her. Rourke, barely able to breathe, growled the words, I don't need to save her alone. Humans don't leave their own. The creature hesitated, as if confused by the anger in his voice. Suddenly, something exploded behind them. A large flash, a sonic blast. The creature dropped Rourke. He fell hard onto the sand. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard a familiar voice shouting his name. Vale. He arrived with the transport bike blazing through the dunes. Mara held Lyra tightly. The girl's tattoos were glowing bright again, too bright. Her body shook with strange energy. Vale yelled, Captain, something is happening to her. The leader turned around. Lyra opened her eyes. They were glowing like stars, and the desert lit up with a blinding light.
A wave of white light exploded from Lyra's small body and rushed across the desert like a storm. The creatures staggered backward, their armor flickering and their blue energy collapsing. Rourke shielded his eyes as sand lifted into the air and spun around them in a glowing circle. For a moment, time itself felt like it stopped. Lyra's glowing tattoos were no longer dim. They shone brighter than ever before, as if someone had lit a star under her skin. She floated slightly above Vale's arms, her hair lifting from the energy waves pulsing off her. Mara cried out, not in fear, but in shock. Rourke forced himself to stand. His body hurt, his side burned from the beam, but he stepped toward Lyra with steady steps. Lyra, can you hear me? Her eyes opened slowly, and they were not silver anymore. They were bright white, glowing like twin moons. She looked at Rourke, but her voice was not the same. It sounded layered, like two voices speaking together. They marked me. They awakened something inside me. The leader creature roared and moved closer. Its armor crackled, trying to stabilize. You were not supposed to awaken. You were meant to fail. You were meant to die. Lyra turned her head slightly. And yet, I live. When she spoke, the sand beneath the creature cracked as if something heavy pushed upward. The creature stepped back, confused and shaken. For the first time, fear appeared in its posture. Vale whispered to Rourke, Captain, she's not just waking up. She's changing. Rourke kept his eyes on Lyra. We need to control this. If she loses herself, she could burn everything around her. Lyra floated down slowly and landed on her feet, though her injured leg still hung weakly. But she didn't collapse. Energy held her steady. Mara stepped forward carefully, afraid to scare her. Lyra, sweet girl, you're okay. You're safe. Lyra blinked slowly, focusing. The glow weakened a little, and her voice returned to normal. Mara? I was scared. Rourke let out a shaky breath. She was still herself, but he could see it. Something inside her had changed forever. The leader creature regained its balance and stepped forward again. Enough. She belongs to us. Her power must be contained. She is the key to our return. Rourke raised his rifle and stepped between Lyra and the creature. Over my dead body. The creature didn't hesitate. It charged. Rourke fired a full-powered burst, but the creature deflected the shots with its energy field. Vale fired from the side, hitting the creature's leg. Mara pulled Lyra back, trying to reach a safer position behind the rocks. But the creature's speed was terrifying. It closed in on Rourke and swung its arm, knocking him across the sand. He rolled, trying to recover, but blood dripped from his lip. Vale yelled, Rourke, move! The creature turned toward Lyra again, energy building in its chest. Rourke grabbed a broken metal rod and stabbed it into the creature's backplating. The creature roared and spun, hitting Rourke again, sending him crashing into a dune. Everything seemed to slow. Lyra saw Rourke fall. Her heart pounded. Her breathing changed. Her eyes glowed again, brighter now, but this time full of anger. She stepped forward, limping but steady. "Stop hurting them!" The creature ignored her, and that was a mistake. Lyra raised her hands. The air around her shimmered. Strange symbols appeared, glowing white in circles. Vale stared in shock. She's activating something. Something old. The creature shot a beam at her, but the beam bent away, curving around her like light around a planet. It struck the sand instead. Lyra's hands pressed together. The symbols exploded outward. A wave of white energy slammed into the creature, lifting it off the ground and throwing it across the desert. Its armor shattered. Sparks burst from its mask. It landed with a heavy thud and didn't move. The other creatures froze in fear. They looked at one another, then at the glowing child, and then they ran. They didn't even try to fight her. They fled into the night, disappearing into the dunes like shadows chased by dawn. Silence returned.